tea and coffee and some cookies and things in the back if anybody would be interested in those, or afterwards is fine too. All right, well, where to start? So I'm sure everybody knows we are working very hard to get a grocery store here in Tully. We've been working on that for quite some time, and we couldn't figure out a way to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how we're doing that to start with, which is a very unusual way of doing things. And then kind of what we're looking at actually doing inside the building in terms of layouts and things. And then any questions that folks have, you're welcome to stop me as I'm talking, because that's probably the easiest time to do it. And I'd like to keep this very friendly and conversational. So the little grocery here closed. We're trying to figure out how many years ago. We think about 8. We're not completely sure. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. And I'm sure that everybody knows that since then, both the town supervisor and myself had spent a lot of time contacting different grocery stores saying, hey, we'd really appreciate it if somebody would come to Tully. There was actually a market research done by PNC. They actually found that this was a really viable market for a PNC, and they wanted to put one here. And they were talking about doing that over near the Best Western. And then PNC kind of had bankruptcy issues and so forth. So needless to say, that didn't work out. So we were back at square zero again, which was really kind of depressing. I know Bill had talked to all of these, a number of us had talked to different places, and just really weren't making any traction. And of course, anybody who lived in the village for any length of time or in the area knew that there was a very unfortunate fire some years ago in the ski shop, and that building had just been sitting there unusable for quite some while, but in a really great location. So as things sometimes happen, it was going up for tax auction this fall. And I had been talking to Chastity for a while, oh gosh, for probably close to 2 years, trying to figure out, could she find a space here to possibly bring a store up to Tully? And all of a sudden we went, hey, here's a really neat idea. What if we buy this building and fix it up? Great. Except it's really expensive to buy a building and fix it up. Whoever you are, it's not inexpensive. So what we did is initially we got a few investors together. I was in grad school at the time, and the dangerous thing about grad school is you get ideas. I start doing things. Boy, my husband is really regretting me going to grad school. So I had read about this guy called Mohammed Yunus, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize for microfinance. But he's done a lot more than that since then. He started doing a lot of these things called social business, where people would invest in a business, and the point of the business, the investors make a little bit of money on their investment, but they also address some kind of a social issue or a concern in their community. They're usually done on a much larger scale. Something like Dannon Yogurt working in India to make really nutrient-fortified yogurts to sell at a reasonable cost to people to combat malnutrition. Well, we're not looking at anything nearly so grand as that. We just had 2 little local problems that are small enough that they fit right in our community. We had no grocery store. I think everybody here likes to eat. I sure do. And we had this building that really needed to be fixed up, and it's right in the middle of things, and it'd be really nice if it looked better. So the way this works is we got some investors together, and we purchased the building at auction, and then started getting more investors together to actually look at getting enough working capital to actually repair the building. And so far, it's going really well. We're trucking along. By the next couple weeks, I'm sure everybody's noticed, first the demo happened, we got everything cleaned out, and now we're starting to rebuild. The floors are now jacked, we're getting all the proper supports in, we've had the engineer in to look at everything, make sure we're doing it right, and that's a relief because we don't want the thing falling down, that would be unpleasant. We've got new windows going in, new siding going up now that the building's stable and sound, and so pretty soon we're going to start, once the exterior is closed in so that the building is enclosed, we're going to start working on the inside. And all the investors, we've got a whole list of folks on the door that over time have had enough faith to put their money into this project. They all get a flat 3% interest on whatever they've invested. Over the course of 10 years, they get paid back. Over the course of 10 years, Chastity and her husband will buy out the building. And by the end of that, all the investors have gotten their money back with a little interest. They then own the building. And the way we're doing the building is kind of interesting too. I wanted it to be sustainable. One of the problems with groceries, and one of the reasons it's hard to get one, is you don't make a huge amount of money on food. You can't mark up a whole lot because people have to be able to afford to buy it, and then you have to have worries about expiry and spoilage and all these things, and there's a lot of energy that it takes to do coolers and freezers and all these things, so there's a lot of expense. So in order to compensate for that, we're going to have 3 apartments upstairs. There's enough space, believe it or not, this building is a lot bigger than you realize. There's enough space for 2 bedrooms and an efficiency apartment. They'll be upstairs. So the rent that comes into the apartments will offset things like taxes, utilities, and so forth over time. And then once the grocery store is going on and the investors are all paid, they'll basically have a rent-free space, not only because they own it, but because the space above it pays for the things like their insurance, their utilities, their taxes. The basement space was going to end up being unused. So the way that's ending up working out is Kathy was going to need a space to continue on with her business. She's shifting over to kind of a wellness center that's going to focus on exercise and dance and nutrition and things. So she's going to be in that space underneath, which will be really neat too, because that takes a space that otherwise would have gone unused. It gets it finished out really nicely, which again, by finishing the basement and having additional insulation and so forth in there, that also is better for the whole building as a whole, and we don't end up with unused space. So it's kind of an unusual way of doing things, but it's working, which is pretty exciting, and we're getting there a little at a time. So in terms of the grocery store, so now we'll talk about layout of the building. The grocery store will be the main floor, like the ski shop used to be. You'll walk in where there are nice, very lovely bits of plywood on the windows now. We've got a special order of those windows because they're really big, and we wanted them to be very energy efficient. So that will have all open glass in the front, and you'll walk in, and that main floor area is going to be the grocery store. There's kind of an interesting little, I don't know what you call it, like a shed-style bump out on the side of Hayes Agency, which is kind of cool because it gives us some extra space. So we're playing with that space a little bit. And the first little section of it, we're going to have a nice little space for kids. I have 2 of them. It is not fun to shop with them. I love them dearly, but I like them to be able to go sit and do something else if I'm grocery shopping. So we're going to have a nice little space carved out there where kids can sit and color. We're going to chalk paint the walls so they can, with chalk, color on the walls, because that's really fun and you don't get to do that at home. And have some books and some nice little quiet things so that they can sit and be entertained by themselves. And I'll let their mom actually, or dad, whoever's shopping with grandma, whatever it is, actually go through the store peacefully. Then there's going to be a mechanicals room, because that's kind of a requirement. And then we're going to have, you can see there's an exterior door there that goes through. That's actually going to be dry storage all along there. And then there will be a little half bath for people working there so they can use the washroom. There will be a hall that continues all the way to a back door. There's actually surprisingly a lot of parking. I know that's a concern a lot of people have had. This lot is actually 1/3 of an acre. It zigzags back behind Peace and all the way over to Denise's. So there is a lot of space back there that most people don't even realize. From the front it looks like just building with narrow parking driveway on it, but it actually goes back and goes quite a distance. The parking is only going to be gravel initially because blacktop is very expensive. But it'll be nice rolled gravel and it will be useful and it will be parkable. So someday hopefully it will be blacktopped. But also, once you get through the main section of the grocery, there's a nice little room. I learned of a new technology not too long ago. If you hyper-insulate a space with foam insulation and you have a window, you can put a window AC unit, and they make a really cool thing, if you want to look it up on the internet, called a CoolBot. It's a little control head that controls the window AC unit, and you can basically make a space a walk-in cooler for a fraction of the cost of buying a big walk-in cooler. So we're going to be doing that, so that'll give us a nice walk-in cooler for any type of cold storage. And as you continue on that little hall, there's what used to be a back room. I think it used to be a repair room or something. It's a small space. It'll be about 17 by 16 feet, and it will have a wall. It'll have a separate little entrance to meet requirements, but we'll be able to do a separate but co-located little local wine shop in there. I know there's been a lot of people who've been very interested in that. You cannot sell wine in a grocery store. So it has to have a separate entrance. They can share an entry hall, is my understanding. I'm still clearing everything with the liquor board because these things are very picky. But we should be able to have a nice little store for some local wines back there as well. Upstairs, the two bedrooms will be over the main grocery. The little efficiency will be over the back little wine shop. And then the downstairs will be entered from the back parking lot. There's actually exterior stairs that we've dug out that go right down. That'll have its own separate door. Where there used to be the big stairwell, I don't know if people remember, you used to walk in the front door and there used to be a stairwell down. That's going to be all closed off so that the grocery store is a nice and open space and all one contiguous. You don't have to go around a hole in the floor. So, trying to think. that's about what the building will look like. The siding is beige. It's going up. It's starting to look very lovely, very exciting with white trim. Yeah, so it's coming. But I don't know what questions folks have, and everybody's sitting so politely and quietly.
Mention your energy efficiency.
Oh, that's one of the things we're really excited about in this building, because it's not very often you literally get the opportunity to work. I mean, working in a burned out building, it could be scary, or it can be a really cool opportunity because most of it's already not there. So we've taken everything completely to the studs, and it allows us to redo everything in a way that's very energy efficient and safe and up to code, which is all very exciting too. So obviously it'll have all new wiring. The furnace HVAC system that just got on order, it's going to be over 96% efficient with a heat recovery system. It'll have integrated, what's the word I want to pull the moisture out of the air? Dehumidifier, thank you. English is hard. And that'll be really good system, but obviously coolers and freezers take a lot of energy. We've actually looked into several different options and have found a solar company, it's called Solar Liberty, that can do solar panels on the roof. They're all made in the US, which is really neat. Some of the other panels we looked at were not, and this company was about half the cost of some of the other estimates we got. So we're hoping to have that, again, to make the building more efficient, and we're looking at doing foam insulation just to make sure that everything's really tight, which is a big thing, again, with that whole heating and cooling is a huge portion of the energy efficiency for an old building. So because we're able to literally gut everything, we're able to go and really do a nice job with it as we're putting it back together. So, let's see.
What's it going to be with an LLC or what?
It's an LLC. So the way we did this, New York State is really rough with tax laws. So the best way we could think of to do this, especially in a very short turnaround, which it was when we found out about the tax auction, was to set up an LLC. So the LLC actually purchased the building and owns it. That's the Build Hope LLC. And then any of the investors who make an investment actually have an investment in the LLC so that their investment is backed by the building as a real asset so that their money is protected. Because that was something that was very important to me for all the investors. If people,
they're not liable, is that right? The LLC protects the investor?
It does. The LLC protects the limited liability corporation, so it protects the investor, and the fact that the LLC owns the real asset protects their investment. So if anything ever were to happen, the building has value. So that value is basically the value of your investment. So, yeah. Any other questions? Or
Is this seen as a natural food store?
Well, Chastity has I don't know if you've been in her Oh My Goodness Health food store. Okay, down in Homer. So she does a lot of local and organics, and we've asked her to keep doing that here, but recognizing that we probably need a greater variety than just that. Now, a lot of local foods that are available aren't necessarily organic, so that'll be played into that, and we've talked about a couple of options that, again, with a lot of the, whether it's local meat or organic meat or both of those qualities, a lot of times it has to be frozen. So one of the things I'm currently looking into, and I don't have any kind of an agreement on this yet, is trying to find a fresh meat butcher who could come one day a week with fresh meat. And that would not likely be organic. But just to be able to bring fresh meat in so that that was available would be a nice option.
I think affordability is a factor.
Yeah.
I hope it is, because there are a lot of people who maybe can't afford what organic or natural.
Yeah, and that's, and I know one of the things, I hope you don't think I'm speaking out of turn, you're welcome to chime in anytime, is that Chastity has said in her store in Homer is that because she's small, she's able to be flexible. So if people say, oh, I particularly would love to have whatever the particular product is, she has the flexibility to change what she carries or to order specifically for people a lot easier than a lot of big stores do. So, go ahead.
There is a butcher right there in Homer. Is it a Surefine, the grocery store right there? Because that's
an IGA, I believe.
It's an IGA, but there is a butcher that goes.
Oh, is there? Okay,
yeah.
I haven't been in
so
there.
It might be a place to stop in and just.
One of the people I actually talked to fairly frequently throughout this whole process has been Paul Nojane. and he's been really helpful. He's been great. That's one of the most amazing thing I have to say. Other businesses locally have been incredibly helpful through this whole process, just on advice and references, or try to talk to this person, or I mean, we've worked with Tully Building for all our building supplies, and they give us an incredible super rate, and they come and deliver us stuff, and they let me ask them 10,000 questions, and they've put up with me this far, for which I'm very grateful. I mean, that's been the amazing thing that, I mean, working with Hayes Agency, I was able to get somebody to actually insure that building before we started the demo. I don't know how they did that, but they did. And this has been the greatest thing about this project, is how supportive other local businesses have been towards this. And I think that says a lot for our community, that people are willing to be so supportive. It's been fantastic. So, anybody else? Yeah.
I was just curious about the narrow access, you know, the drive, the little alleyway between the two. What are some ideas on that? I mean,
we're working on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are landlocked in the back. There's no way to escape out the back. I was hoping that was not the case. It was hard to tell on the tax map, but we are completely landlocked. The Hayes Agency has been kind enough that we've used their driveway for deliveries and things with a lot of the building materials. I've talked a little bit about them about possibly, as we get closer to opening, if it would be possible for all of us to kind of work on going in one driveway and out another,
right,
because I know they have the same problem. They only have one driveway in, and so if somebody's trying to leave when somebody's trying to come in, it can be difficult. So yeah, absolutely. And it's hard too, because you're very close to an intersection there, closer even on their side than where we are next to Peace. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work in the long run. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And people taking care. I mean, that's going to be one of it, is just, you know, trusting that people, and I know Sweet Basil has the same trouble on the other side with parking behind and trying to pull across the sidewalk, just really pulling gently out and not running over pedestrians and other cars. It's always a concern in the downtown, such as it is. Small, but still busy. So.
I know it's early, but do you have an ETA for the opening?
Well, everybody keeps asking that, and I said my goal, what I would love to see is late fall. But that may be
this year.
This year.
So
I am very optimistic. That may be overly optimistic. Chastity keeps looking at me going, I don't know, we'll see. But a lot of it's dependent on us getting the construction done. So it's going well. So here's hoping. So that's the best I can say. We weren't allowed to actually start any of the demo or the work until we actually had the deed in hand. Even though the tax auction was the very end of October, we didn't get the deed till mid-December. So we spent a lot of time just going, well, I really wish this would come. And then the winter was so cold that there were days I had to wait for it to get up to 0 so that the generator would start, so I'd be able to have some light while I was working. So the demo started a bit slow. Part of the problem with that was initially we couldn't really have people volunteer to help because we couldn't get enough insurance to cover the liability, and I ended up with stitches in my head, so I understand the whole liability thing. Don't drop things on your own head, it's a bad idea. But so, you know, these things happen, and it got to the point where I demoed as much as I could with Kathy's help. My poor children were pressed into service a great deal of the time. And then we hired some guys. We've hired a construction crew who's actually come in and finished the big demo that was bigger than what we could do ourselves.
You still looking for volunteers, and what would that encompass?
We will be, and that's the problem. We have to finish getting the building sound. So that's this, God willing, and all the pieces come in this week, because we're having beams. We've been ordering beams cut for us specifically, really to have really good support beams for everything. Our engineer has kind of laughed at us that we were a little overkill on the support, but I think that's wise, especially when you're putting coolers and things on it. If the last of the beams are hopefully coming in on Friday. Once we have all the beams in and we have the floors with 1-inch ply on the whole main floor, and everything is basically, so we don't have to worry about anybody falling through things or the building falling on anybody, then we're hoping to be able to, as we start putting it back together, take volunteer labor.
And how will you put that out to the
Facebook with our page is a lot of what we do, but if I know people are interested, I will phone them when I know what days we're doing different things and need help. So, and definitely when we get to the point of, you know, drywalling and painting, things that are very, very labor intensive, but most people can do. It's just a matter of having the hands there. those will be the great things to get extra sets of hands on.
So then you'll be hiring people to actually run the store? Is that how it works?
I do nothing with stores. I do wild construction, so I assume Cassidy will be people to hire. Is that a safe?
Yeah, probably, I mean, it's not gonna take a huge staff, right? Probably 2 people will, yeah.
So. Any other questions or thoughts?
Could you speak a little about how the money is holding out?
Well, about the time we get the building closed in and all supported, I am out of our initial money. But this is the good thing. This is what people need to hear because we've done some amazing stuff. So we bought the building. We've insured the building. We have done all the initial demo. We will have all the initial support done, all the initial windows in, siding up, all that. It's going to take us, by that point, we owe in the taxes this year, which were very expensive, as I'm sure everybody who lives here knows. By that point, I will be hitting the end of the checkbook at $115,000. So we've done good. A lot of that has been slave labor. So if you see my children, please tell them what a great job they've done. I have bribed them with many root beer floats at the diner.
Are there grants available for this?
We thought we had one, and we did not end up getting it. This particular building had actually received a Main Street grant in the mid-'80s. I don't know if anybody remembers, it was about 85. A number of buildings in Tully got a Main Street grant. They were, this one particular had, the whole bump out section was rebuilt, new windows. It was, the whole building was scraped and painted and really rehabbed nicely at that point in time. We were looking to do a similar type of a thing. We thought we were going to be able to, and unfortunately that fell through. So I have not been able to find. The trouble is, this has been one of the banes of the whole grocery store concept. County Economic Development views a grocery store as retail. They do not give grants to retail. It does not matter that we are in a food desert that has been documented. I have tried every possible beg and plea. So we couldn't get money through economic development, which is why I was hoping through community development with the Main Street style grant, and then they couldn't do that either. So no, it's all investors. So that's what we've done so far. So yes.
So what do you need?
What do I need? Right now, I need investors is the one thing I need desperately. I'll be quite honest with you. I think I can do the entire project for $200,000 to complete it. I might be wrong because a lot of that depends on how much volunteer labor I end up getting throughout the course of it. But I think I can, and I've gotten $115,000 already in investors. So I think that's where I'm looking at this point. Is more investors for both money initially and for time as we get to the point where we can take people who are willing to invest their time.
If you get volunteer work, then obviously that's paid for.
You're right.
So
volunteer labor is free labor, so that it means I pay contractors less.
So is there a way for the community to come in and you let us know when you need something
Yes,
done?
and that's what I will do. As soon as we have the building sound, I will be putting on. If anybody here has, I do most things on computer at this point. So on Facebook we have Build Hope LLC, which is this project. Every week I put pictures up of where we are. I try to put updates pretty regularly of kind of what's happening, and that's how I will put out as soon as the building is sound and we can start taking volunteers. What I'll do is, I will put up there, hey, this day at this time we are going to be doing X, Y, or Z. If you are able to help, please let me know so I know how many people are coming and I can kind of schedule around that, and that way we can start. Some of the things, a lot of times, if we have people who can pull wires, if that's a pretty simple thing. If you've got one electrician to oversee, you can have a lot of people who are just happy helpers helping as long as they've got a little bit of adult supervision. Some things you really can't do that. Plumbing, not so much. Plumbing, you need people who know what they're doing. Heating, we need somebody who knows what he's doing. But a lot of the basic stuff we can get as long as people are willing to take direction. We'll be able to get help, and that it goes a long way, actually.
What's the Facebook page?
Build Hope LLC. Yes, please like us on Facebook. So.
And I should mention, if you don't have access to a computer, you can always come to the library.
Yes, please come to your local library and use the computers. They will be very happy to help. So. Any other questions or thoughts? Well, it's been a lot of fun, and actually, going back to the whole grad school thing, my group, we wrote our master's Builders capstone project on this type of thing, this social business at the local level. And we could only find 3 examples that have been documented, and this is one of them because we were starting to document it. One was in Albania, and one was in the Philippines. Mostly they're done on a very big level, at a national level, and they're run by NGOs. And the other 2 were both organized by NGOs, and this is the only example we could find of a community actually doing this for themselves, which was pretty darn cool. So I'm documenting like crazy, and I'm hoping to share this with other small communities, because I think this is a really good way for people to work together to fix things that they recognize in their own community that need work. And everybody benefits. If you invest, you do get your money back. It's not a donation, and you get a little interest, so that's good. But even if you're investing, you don't have time, or you don't have money, but you're investing your time, you're still benefiting the whole community, and then yourself by having that access to, in this case, a grocery store and having a nicer looking downtown. So we all benefit, and it seems like it's the type of a thing that everybody wins. I haven't quite found any negatives to it yet, other than my additional gray hairs and a couple of stitches, but that's pretty minor in the grand scheme of things.
So if we do find someone who wants to invest, how do we?
Just call me, and then I literally draw up a little legal document that's it is the simplest investment document you have ever seen in your life. It basically puts the person's name is investing X amount towards this project, and here's the amount they'll get back over 10 years in payments of this increment, and then I sign it and they sign it. We both keep copies, and that's how it works. And it's been checked by both accountants and lawyers, and although it's very simple, it is legal. So it's in English, which is even more exciting.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.